Uh-oh. Hold, please. Hey, everybody. Hey, Rabbi Gross, welcome to Live at 5. How are you today?
Fantastic, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I haven't really gotten to a lot of projects today because the old kids started the distant learning. And when I say old kids, I don't have old kids, as you know, the young kids who need a lot of
Well,
assistance.
my older kids also started the distance learning today. Or actually, they started yesterday. But we're doing well in the Gross household.
Good. I'm very happy to hear that. I'm so glad that you're here with us on Live at 5. We should say, this is the third time we've done this. You were the very special guest the first time, then Renee Carroll and Isabel Carroll. Like, let's be honest about like what the
She
most
stole the
important piece
show.
of this, and totally stole the show. They were our special guest the second time, and then you're back this time, and we're gonna do a little bit of learning with you today, and I'm gonna do my best to ask some questions, and I also want to encourage folks who are watching us here on Facebook Live to add any questions that you may have, so that we can be sure to expand our knowledge on the subject matter that Rabbi Gross is going to talk about. Hey, speaking of knowledge, of which you have much and I have
Much,
some.
much.
Some. Did you know that today is a national day of prayer?
Well, it is definitely a day of prayer for the Jewish community. My Orthodox friends circulated an email saying that since it is Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month, the community has encouraged Jews around the world to rattle the heavens with the Psalms. And so,
Wow.
in the spirit of that effort to ask God to please relieve us of this plague that has been put upon us through the COVID-19 virus, we have a psalm that is very familiar, Psalm 121, which says, I lift up my eyes to the mountains, from whence cometh my help? My help cometh from God, maker of heaven and earth. Esa einai el harim, Esa einai el harim, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri. Where will my help come from? Where will my help come from? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. Esa einai el harim, Esa einai el harim, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri, me'ayin yavo, yavo Ezri.
Well, that was amazing. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that song with us, and thanks for giving us something to hold on to, and something to have in our minds as we deal with some difficult stuff here. Was hoping you could maybe teach us a little bit about anything interesting that we should be watching for in this week's Torah portion.
Absolutely. Well, as the psalmist said in this psalm, Where do we find our help? We find it in God. And when we turn our spirits toward the heavens, something of us kind of pulls back. And this week's Torah portion is indicative of this very, very specific idea. In this week's Torah portion, we begin the book of Leviticus. And the very first word of the book of Leviticus is a word is Vayikra, which means, and God called out. Now, what's interesting about this passage, and specifically about the word Vayikra, is that the last letter of the first word Vayikra, which is an aleph, we're going to have an image on the screen in just a moment. This aleph is the smallest letter in the entire Torah. It is a textual anomaly that we're going to show you in just a moment. I think we lost the images here. There it is. There it is. If you look at the very first word in this sentence, Vayikra El Moshe, the Lord called out to Moses. The very last letter of that first word, we have a little cursor, we can circle it, is an aleph. You see how much smaller that aleph is from the rest of the word? And the sages wondered why. This is something that's been preserved in our tradition for thousands of years. This is how it's written in every single Torah that we have. And the sages asked, why is that aleph so tiny? Well, one of the most powerful answers that I have heard is that the letter aleph is also the first letter in the word ani, which means I. So when we hearken to God, when we prepare ourselves to listen to God's commandments, which is what the entire book of Leviticus is. It's a huge corpus of commandments telling us to do things, telling us how to live in ways that are righteous. When we are turning ourselves to God's will, then we have to pull back and shrink the I. The ego needs to shrink a little bit and allow the commandments to work through us. So that's the explanation for the small aleph in the word Vayikra. And it's a powerful, important message for us to think about today. In this time of crisis, when there's so much being demanded of us, whether it's our children, whether it's our jobs, whether it's the city of Houston or the entire country or the entire world, it's asking us, shrink your ego a little bit so that we can do more for the world, more for our city, more for our families, more for the betterment of the situation in which we are finding ourselves. So we need to say, ego, self, don't demand so much so that there will be more room to do for others.
Wow, thank you for sharing that with us. It's really interesting to think about it in terms of, you know, funneling it down from like the idea of leadership and like leaders in our Jewish stories who have exemplified this, you know, the ani, the self, the pulling the back. Are there any examples that come to mind for you for a Jewish hero or heroine who exemplifies this? And I'll give you a second even to think about the answer here. But I want to encourage folks who are watching on Facebook Live, if you have any questions for Rabbi Gross about the small aleph, the small ani, the self, or anything like that, please feel free to add it to the comments. So I bought you some time to think about my very challenging question.
I appreciate that time. I will say that we are about to enter into a period of preparation for Pesach. So in terms of biblical leaders, most of our biblical leaders find ways to be blessings for the world. We have Abraham and Sarah, and they need to, Abraham leaves his land and goes out to be a blessing for the world. And Sarah does the same thing. Each of our patriarchs and matriarchs in their own right sacrifice a little bit for the greater good of the world. But as we prepare for Pesach, we have a very interesting custom, right? We are supposed to not have any leavening in our house. We're supposed to get rid of all the chametz.
Very keto friendly. Very
keto friendly. Absolutely. Maybe even gluten friendly at times as well, but certainly keto friendly. But we're not supposed to have any chametz, any leavening. So you say, what's so bad about leavening? You know, why is there a commandment to get rid of leavening for 7 days? Well, the sages suggested that leavening is something that rises, like bread rises. And they compared that rising of the bread, the rising that comes with leavening, to a bloated ego. So that during this period of Passover, it's important to let go, make some sacrifices, compromise what we usually have so that we can focus on the messages of the festival itself. What are those messages? The messages for universal freedom, the message for let no one go hungry, the message of an idea that we can work toward a perfect redemption to come. All of these are woven into the actions of Passover. And the act of sacrificing leavening for a week is one of the ways that we try to remember to shrink that ego, just like leavening bloats the bread, a leavenless bread, the tasteless matzah, maybe as a pulling back, maybe with a little less of ourselves. We shouldn't be tasteless, but we should definitely try as hard as we can to focus on the values and the lessons of our festival.
Very nice.
That is an application of this shrinking olive, this shrinking bread, and our festival to come.
Well, thank you. So I'm looking at our comments here on our Facebook Live. We don't have any questions, which only means that you explain that in such a phenomenal way that there is nothing left to question about this, although we know that the rabbis would have kicked this one around quite a bit. But we do have some shout outs. So I think that Jill Weller says hello from the Wellers and the Lopetros, and we say hi back. And hello from the Wolfsons. And breaking news, by the way, Melissa Wolfson texted me during this and said that Live at 5 is the #1 top Facebook Live happening in the Houston area for Jewish people who go to HCRJ in the world. So that's a pretty amazing accomplishment by us. Someone named Lisa Cashin. Oh, that's one of my favorite Lisas. You know her. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for watching with us. We have the Carols are watching. Hello to the Carols. Oh, someone named Stephen Mason says, good afternoon. Lovely Drosh on the olive. Thanks. And to you, Stephen Mason,
Rabbi.
I say, thanks, Dad. Mallory Barbie's here. Hello, Mallory. Hi, Miss Mallory. And Matthew and Caroline McElroy say hello as well. Rabbi Gross, did you... I know I should have written this down. Did you want to close this with a song, or did you have? Yeah,
I do. I you know, one of the things that happens when we have to sacrifice so much of ourselves during a time that is unspecified, right? We don't know when this crisis is going to end. We can often feel like we're sitting in limbo, and I think, for those who grew up in the 60s and 70s, maybe even the early 80s, will recognize these famous words of a terrific rock and roll star named Jimmy Cliff. Sitting here in limbo, and I know it won't be long. Sitting in limbo, like a bird without a song. Though they're building up up resistance, I know that my faith will lead me on. Sitting here in limbo, waiting for the dice to roll. Sitting here in limbo, got some time to search my soul. Though they're putting up resistance, I know that my faith will lead me on. I know that my faith will lead me on. Lead me on. Feels like we're sitting in limbo, but there will be an end to this. We just got to keep plugging away and have faith.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for those words and for sharing that with us.
Righteous,
for sharing that
righteous Irie.
righteous. Rabbi Gross, I don't know about you, but it's about 5:15, which means that I need to start getting dinner ready for my kids. But before we say goodbye, a couple other shout outs. Renee Carroll of the famous Katie Carrolls reminds me that not only do I have to talk to my dad and say thanks to my dad, but also to say hi to my mom. Hi, Mom. All right, good. And Julie Herman says, thanks for doing this. And Julie, to you, we say thanks for watching us do this. And Shirley Holtzman Schwartz, who I think you know, says, hi from your second cousin, Alan Schwartz, and his wife, Shirley, in Pittsburgh. Thank you for your presentations.
We're making it to Pittsburgh. This is good.
Yeah,
we're going national.
Yep, worldwide. Rabbi Gross, it's time to eat. I'll say the blessing for washing hands. Would you then lead us in the motzi?
I will.
All right. I'm going to get this here because, you know, you and I can't really do much without our stringed instruments here. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu, b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu, al netilat yadayim. Very nice. Al netilat yadayim. Wash your hands. Rabbi Gross, please lead us in motzi, and then I got to go make dinner.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Tiavon, have a wonderful dinner with your family, or a wonderful dinner with whoever you're sharing it with. Just maintain your distance.
Thanks, and we'll talk to you very soon.